Recently, a fellow student who studied in Dongmi gave me a copy of ancient Sanskrit Buddhist mantras collection and sequel by Master Fafeng in Taiwan, commonly known as Jian Fengqi. After reading it, I found that Master Fafeng has a lot of valuable experience in holding spells and meditation. His muttering is deeply inspiring and beneficial. According to Master Fafeng's self-report, in the 77th year of the Republic of China Taiwan Era Law, that is, 1988, meditation penetrated the top wheel, forehead wheel, throat wheel, heart wheel, umbilical wheel, abdominal wheel and seabed wheel, and formed a large vortex magnetic field in series. And soon entered the second meditation. There are 4 realms of 8 touches and 16 movements, 10 good methods, inner purity, joy, happiness and meditation. In the 88th year of the Republic of China, 39 years old, in February, through the pillar of light to the sun and the sky, he saw the Greek-style white temple and the 4-color heavenly official. In May, he also went to the Morization through the pillar of light, met the Bodhisattva and the 2 heavenly daughters, and received the blessing of the golden light initiation of the Morization. In June of the same year, his friend asked him to visit the small folk palace. After returning home, he met the big spirit monster, suppressed all the chi veins, and entered the period of ghosts and gods. Since then, all kinds of ghosts and monsters have invaded one after another, fighting each other, and often have nightmares. I asked everywhere for advice on how to deal with ghosts and obstacles, but I couldn't get a real solution. Jian Fengqi, a resident, practiced meditation to the second meditation, but entered the ghost temple and was invaded and possessed by ghosts. This is alarming. Ordinary ghosts and gods should not be entered, and should be kept away from them. Don't worship when you see the temple, and ask for a wish when you see the god. The consequences may be very serious. Hong Kong woman went to the Yin temple to beg for wealth. Soon, she became rich, but she was possessed by a fierce ghost and was in pain. The classics mention external protection and internal protection. External protection means that you do not eat offerings and do not go to the place of ghosts and gods such as pure. Inner care is to hold a pure precept, adjust the body and mind. In the Sutra of the True Words of the God of Not Emptiness, Guanyin Bodhisattva said, the Dharma should not eat the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Vajra and gods. All bureaucrats of the Dharma monk king. The ghosts and gods of the people are eating mutility at night. Don't eat offerings, that is, offerings to Buddha and Bodhisattva to protect the Dharma, and ghosts and gods cannot be eaten. In many classics of the esoteric Buddhism, Buddha and Bodhisattva have emphasized many times. I have written and mentioned it before. Some people think that there is a great virtue to say that it can be eaten, or that scriptures are momentarily convenient to say. These are actually it as not the problem. Some people come to me after reading the scriptures I quoted. I usually ask him to read all the classics of the esoteric department. When it comes to offerings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas make it clear that it cannot be eaten, otherwise it is harmful to samadhi. How can it be convenient? The world as honorable is in the Dharma Collection Sutra, the Vajra Bodhisattva is in the Suppohutunzi Sutra, Guanyin Bodhisattva is in the True Words Sutra. Many classics, thousands of scriptures, all say that offerings should not be eaten, otherwise it will be lost. However, there is a mention of eating in the method of happy heaven. This is what the saint said. The hearts of future generations float and have many thoughts. Isn't it a waste to throw it away? If you eat it, you can still get the blessing. These ideas are all incarnated by future generations. Naturally, the Dharma experience of later generations is not as great as in the early days of the Dharma flow, and it is rare to see and hear about it. Therefore, if you want to get a great Dharma test, or even know the place, please do not eat the offerings. According to the classics, first, it can be given to others, the poor and animals. Second, it can be burned, which is mentioned in the Guanyin Bodhisattva's Puxiandharni Sutra, burned or put into the river. Third, it can be placed in a pure place, such as on the grass under the tree. If it is really inconvenient, put it in a cleaning bag and dispose of it. Sister Zhuoma, brother, I think it's very interesting to read the article on psychic people you published. Shangxi is really a place where people are outstanding. No wonder Manjushri Bodhisattva wants to establish a dojo in Shangxi. I went to Shangxi to study in September. In the place between Yin County and Dadong mentioned by the resident in the article, I saw and heard a lot of strange things, which was breathtaking. Coincidentally, I went to a small monastery in the back mountain of Wutai, Xinzhou with my local fellow monks. The name of the temple is Lanruo Temple, which has the same name as the temple in the Ghost of Qiannu. At that time, I went to Chaodi Yingling. The year before last, the Taiwanese residents formed a group to charter 2 buses to worship Wutai Mountain. When going down the mountain, the accompanying leader, a tantric master, clearly watched Lanruo Temple in Dingzhou, and even the route to the monastery was clear. At that time, the mage decided to postpone the date of returning to Taiwan and immediately asked the driver to change the lane and go straight to Lanro Temple. You know, that small temple is in the mountains, and people who haven't been there can't find the way at all. However, the mage, who had never been to the mainland, instructed the driver to come to the gate of the temple without any difference. King Lianqi, that is, the master of Tantra, who went to Lanro Temple in Wutai Mountain, must have his fate. Senior Sister Zhuoma, Heng. The Taiwanese master explained to all the priests present that he should repent and worship Buddha here. This dojo is extremely successful. When the monks in Taiwan saw that the temple was too remote and the conditions were too harsh, they determined to repair a road to the mountain gate. There is more incredible. The head of the monastery is a second monk in his 70s, the name for female monks in Buddhism, and the precepts are extremely rigorous. When he was not a monk, he protected Lanro Temple, and has been living in this temple since he became a monk. The master said that when she was not a monk, she had big eyes, double eyelids and was tall. A few months after becoming a monk, I woke up one morning and couldn't open my eyes, thinking that I was sick. King Lianke, how about next? Sister Zhuoma, it was hard to open my eyes. When I looked in the mirror, I found that my eyes had become small eyes with a single eyelid, and my clothes had also become longer. It turned out that I suddenly became shorter. I was so scared that my master didn't dare to go out for a few days. King Lianke, this is really amazing. What is generally recorded in the Buddhist scriptures is that when a good man or a good woman converts to Buddha and makes a vow to be a monk, must fall on his own and wear a loin. Due to the great power of Buddha, these were completed in an instant. In addition, it is often heard that there are many cases of single eyelids becoming double eyelids for women who practice green maternal heart spells. The change of acting Sanashi is caused by his predestinantal desire and fate. Sister Zhuoma, when the master guarded Lanro Temple, it was abandoned. The shepherds used this place as a sheep pen, which was built and restored by the master himself brick by brick. At that time, there was only the main hall, and all the Buddha statues had fallen. The master walked more than 20 miles of mountain road under the mountain and carried mud up the mountain by himself to build a Buddha platform. All the Buddha platforms are almost built, and there is only one corner with a little mud. The master wants to carry the mud in a few days. As a result, an incredible thing happened. King Lianke, what is the matter? Sister Zhuoma, master had to go around the Buddha in the morning and evening after class. As soon as he walked to the corner, he saw a man with a black face, wearing ancient clothes and a long beard looking at her with a calm face. The master thought to himself, regardless of him, I will go around my Buddha. However, every time that person looked at the master unhappily, there was nothing he could do. The master had to go down the mountain to carry the mud and make up the corner. From then on, the black-faced man did not look at the master again. King Lianqi, it seems to be the guardian god of the temple. Sister Zhuoma, master has raised a little money to reshape the Buddha statue. However, I don't know where Shakyamuni Buddha should be enshrined. Just as the master hesitated, he saw the golden body of Shakyamuni Buddha appear in the center of the hall, and the golden body, clothing, handprints, and height all appeared to the master. The master sculpted the statue of the world venerable according to the image at that time. Senior Sister Zhuoma, the second time I went up the mountain, I went with a senior, and I talked to the master very late. That elder brother is a man, and the master asked him to go to the opposite house to rest. As a result, maybe he was too tired and sleepy, and he didn't worship Buddha in the room. That room worshipped Amitabha Buddha, Jizong King Bodhisattva and Guanyin Bodhisattva. So he went straight to the Kong to make a bed. As soon as he made the bed, he turned around and saw a general in golden armor standing at the door, looking at him unhappily. He said that he was scared on the spot, and immediately closed his palms and said tremblingly, I'm going to stay here for a while tonight. I've already told my master. The general didn't leave until he finished talking. The next day, he opened his eyes and told his master about it. The master said that it was Vaida Bodhisattva. King Lianqi, according to ancient cases, Vaida Bodhisattva is indeed very strict, and he still deals harshly with breaking the precepts. For those who practice truth, they must be at the law. In the last century, there was a master who wanted to ask for Dharma, and Vaida Bodhisattva appeared and told him how much money to give him. Later, he did get a few things to use to seek the law and practice the law. Senior Sister Zhuoma, when several local priests in Xinzhou heard about this, they wanted to go up the mountain to worship and go down the mountain to see it. Wow! What a big temple! There are mountain gates, the Tianwang Hall, the tower, the bell and drum tower, and the Zongjing building behind the hall. They also wondered why such a big monastery didn't he know before. As a result, when I went up the mountain, I saw a small temple, not even a backyard. What the resident of Xinzhou saw should be the appearance of the Bodhisattva. The master of Taiwan saw it in Dingzhong, and the resident saw it directly at the foot of the mountain. Qinglianqi, another time and space where Lanra Temple is located, where saints may lie there. In ancient public cases, people often saw holy monks and temple pavilions in the mountains and fields, and they were gone as soon as they came out. I have mentioned it in the article Today's Life is the Sun and the Moon. And the Bhikkhu will lie to the era of Maitreya Buddha and a brief talk about the end of Nanshan. In the Langyan Sutra, the Buddha said, nowadays, the world is in the wilderness and the mountains. The holy roadside. They are all the abbots of Arhat. The rough people in the world can see it. Nowadays, the wilderness, deep mountains, and holy places are all abbots of Arhat, which cannot be seen by mortals in the world. Master Fafeng, the abbot of Fashion Temple in Thailand, once said in the program Dream, in the deep mountains and forests of Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Tibet, China and Nepal, there are many people who have proved the fruits of Taoism. In particular, the practitioners of Zongjin Cave and Buffalo Mountain in Cambodia are all strange people who have magic powers and have entered various Zen realms. They can shrink into inches and disappear or become invisible out of thin air. Some can fly over the walls, and some even have a lifespan of more than 200 or 400 years. Senior Sister Zhuoma, there is another treasure in the temple, that is, it is said that Manjushri Bodhisattva came to Wutai Mountain and poked the ground with a hairpin. Since then, there has been a spring eye, which will never dry up and can cure all kinds of diseases. The master has repeatedly said that let us drink more water here, which can. Industry. A relative of a resident priest was paralyzed and went up the mountain to ask his master to help him repent. The master read him a scripture and asked him to take the spring water down the mountain, boil the sick body every day, and said that it would be wrapped in 10 days. As a result, he went down the mountain to wash every day, and it was fine in 4 days. He happily went up the mountain to report to the master. The master said that I dreamed of you. The spring water is also magical. People with light karma drink it sweetly, but people with heavy karma drink it bitterly. Qinglianqi, this spring water has a blessing power. The magic spell of the non-empty silk rope is in the wilderness, and the cultivation of water from the earth, and the sweet spring can cure diseases. Sister Zhuoma, the first time I went up the mountain was to surpass the infant spirit. Even the dead of my family also wrote the card position. More than 10 days after going down the mountain, I had a dream. I dreamed that a banquet was set up in a place like a small auditorium. My grandmother deceased and many people invited Mr. Xi to dinner. At that time, I was quite happy. Mr. Xi came to my house for dinner. He sat down, accompanied by my grandmother, and there was a table of people. Then Mr. Xi said that your house is quite big, but it needs to be well decorated. My grandmother pointed to the front and said, that's not the place of other people as temples, and they can be decorated casually. Later, I told my master about this dream. The master said that it would be enough to have a place to live. The Manjushri Bodhisattva Hall has not been built. How can there be money to decorate for them? The second time I went up the mountain, I asked for a statue of Jianjai Bodhisattva in the temple and was ready to send it. At that time, I made a good talk with a senior brother. The next morning, he sent me there. As a result, I slept the first afternoon and dreamed that the master and an old monk in an apron were standing next to the stove and talking. The old priest told me to go quickly, and I woke up and didn't take it seriously. When I woke up, I called the senior brother who took me up the mountain to confirm the time to go up the mountain tomorrow. As a result, the senior brother said, let us go now. I just thought that maybe the protection of the law was urging us. Qinglianqi, as for dreaming of a human king, as mentioned in the quasi-mentioned method, holding a quasi-mantra will dream of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, emperors, sunlight, and flying. All of which represent the destruction of sin and increasing blessings. Senior Sister Zhuoma, there is one more thing that the master told us. Last winter was very cold. After work, the master came in from outside and wanted to roast the fire by the stove. After roasting, he turned around and roasted his back. He heard a man's voice saying, Don T, move forward. If you go further, you will sit on my face. The master didn't dare to turn his back to the stove again. The master said it was the king of the stove. The master's practice is quite good. He is 78 years old. The Buddha's name is non-stop every day. They don't eat after lunch, and they don't let us talk when we eat. When we have nothing to do, we worship Buddha and grow vegetables by ourselves. The top of the master's head used to be flat, but now it stands out. Sister Zhuoma, when I went up the mountain for the first time, because there were several seniors in the same class, I had to prepare for the mage. The master was very busy and took a little time to talk to us. At that time, I was talking to the master alone. The master was very merciful. She asked me a few questions about my life, pointed out my shortcomings in the world, and asked me to repent and practice well, so as not to ruin my life. I was stunned on the spot, because when I met my master for the first time, she knew my shortcomings and private problems that I didn't want to say. I was surprised. When I left the room, I asked an old resident who was quite familiar with the master, did the master have magic? The old monk said quite positively that the master has great power, but he never shows magic power. If he has no magic power and no cultivation, how can he live in this monastery in the barren mountain for decades? Postscript of King Lianqi, top salute Manjushri Shirley Bodhisattva. Master Xiang, the top gift. Thank you, Sister Zhuoma, for your wonderful sharing. Wutai Mountain is the permanent residence of Manjushri Bodhisattva, and it is also one of the most powerful holy places on earth. Although it is burned, it is strong and not bad. I have been to Wutai Mountain twice, both when I was in college. Before I went there, I dreamed of Wutai Mountain at least 5 times, and what I saw was different from the real Wutai Mountain. One of them, I saw a golden mountain, which was full of temples, towering into the clouds and clouds. It is known as Wutai Mountain in the dream, but it is inconsistent with what you see in reality. The cool climate of Wutai Mountain corresponds to the coolness of Manjushri. The Huayan Sutra says, the Bodhisattva's cool moon swims in the sky after all. The light shines on the 3 worlds, and the mind is all exposed. The incense guests came to the famous mountain ancient temple only for fame and fortune. And practitioners should go there for relief. The Manjushri moon is always shining, and the cool Dharma world is all over the void. May every sentient being who goes to Wutai Mountain be able to win the victory of relief with Manjushri Bodhisattva and prove Bodhi. The 8th wish of Manjushri Bodhisattva: if sentient beings create all sins and fall to the ground, there is no end to the prison, and after immeasurable disasters. He suffered from all kinds of troubles. He was born from hell. First, he was a beast and returned his life to his previous life. He was burdened as a camel, donkey, pig, dog, cattle, sheep, elephant, horse, slave to his servants, to pay his debt, to pay for his life, and to return his theft. There was no rest. I am transformed in the 5 ways, and I am often born in the same world and edified by people. Or be poor, hard, blind, dumb, and beggars. Among all sentient beings, colleagues of the same kind and peers are guided into the Buddha's way. Together, I am destined to develop the heart of Bodhi. Manjushri Bodhisattva made a wish to attract sinners and karma sentient beings, the same kind, the same fate, the same colleague, and the same business, and entered the Buddha's way. Manjushri Bodhisattva has his incarnation not only in Wutai Mountain, but also in the 6 ways, in any field and in any time and space. There may be disabled people such as poor and hardship, blind and deaf, or turned into their family and colleagues. Perhaps, the master who guides you to get started, the resident who has helped you, and even the parents you meet every day. Or the beggars on the street, hard-working office workers may be the followers of Manjushri, but mortals can't identify them. With the power of holy desire, the great Saint Manchu does not enter the 3 worlds and does not leave the 3 worlds. His heart is like the void. He is often in the pure sea of Buddha, living in the Dharma world, and the mind and body of all sentient beings. Manjushri Lian, I have a great wish to use the power of holy nature, and affection, so that sin and dirt can be eliminated, and the holy fruit of Bodhi Buddhas can be obtained. But as my previous point of view, the emergence of esoteric inheritance has obvious advantages. First, the flow of inheritance. If your master is the achiever of the great compassion, you practice his method, and the speed of achievement is very fast. The second is the secret tips and tricks. There are many tips for in-depth cultivation, which can be instructed by a clear teacher, unless there is no teacher. Master Fafeng believes that sects with historical inheritance will have more protection from the ancestral spirits of all generations, which can increase the effectiveness of holding spells. However, the fallen sects and bad ancestral spirits will also cause a burden on practitioners, especially those who do not practice seriously and fall into the ghost path. At the end of the school, I myself had contact with the 4 major sects of Tibetan Buddhism. When I practiced the Shanshur Yoga of the Nyingma school, the blessing of the Shanshur was very obvious, which appeared in reality and dreams. When it comes to the issue of blessing and transfer, the master's blessing continues into the heart until it is no different from the master. And I also have the inheritance of Dongmi and Tongmi. For example, Dongmi, from the 3 great scholars of Kaiyuan, to the master of Konghai, to the ancestors of dozens of generations. With the blessing of the ancestors of successive generations of the entire Dharma vein, its Dharma flow is very obvious. There is no inheritance, such as the great sorrowful mantra of the Han dynasty, and I don't know how many people hold it. The elder Wuming in Taiwan specialized in the great compassion mantra all his life. He saw Guanyin Bodhisattva in person and achieved achievements. He often entered the Samadhi with the Great Sorrow mantra. Where did his great curse come from? It was one day when I exposed the scriptures. After seeing the Great Sorrow from the bottom of the box, I knew the merits of the Great Sorrow mantra and began to recite the Great Sorrow mantra since I was 15 years old. In summary, the law is immeasurable, there are many convenient doors, and there is no second way to return to the original. The Dharma and body of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are everywhere, and sentient beings have feelings, and everyone has a response. If for the secret method, it is still recommended to seek the law from the master who achieved virtue, obtain his method, undertake the flow of multiplication, open the door of realization, and go straight to the source of the heart. Appendix, the experience of Jian Fengqi's residents holding a strict spell learned to read and recite, and read while watching. Use the magic power 10至30百分号, recite it completely and pay attention to yourself. 40至50百分号, you can also focus on the upper and lower dantian or the painful part. Recite, pay attention to yourself, and with a rosary on the top, 60 to 70% the rosary must be recited more than 10,000 times to be strong enough. Recitation in the clean room above the third floor, and the blessing of the divine power of the sun. 40至70百分号, recite in the Buddhist temple, and the temple is supported by the divine power of protection. 40至80百分号, recitation in the altar of Jidi, the power of protection of the Dharma in the dojo, and the blessing of Buddha as power. 80至100百分号, and the secret mantra is the seal of the heart of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and the Dharma body is upright and wide in all directions. With a pure heart, recited in the heart, and the delusion gradually disappears, corresponding to the Buddha and Bodhisattva, the magic power is brahing and the power is free. May it be auspicious.